Okay, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum once again. Now it's time for the question. The topic interest rate risk management. The semester AFM September December 2020. And it's a CB format question. The question name fits Harris Company. And we are going to start that particular question. Now, number one is starting from there. The following exhibits available on the left hand side of the screen provide information relevant to the question. Okay, Fitz Harris Company, transactions to be hedged. And the information should be used to answer the question requirements with your chosen response options, word processor and spreadsheet. Now come on, requirement. First of all, have to read the requirement. This is what about the 25 marks question. 25 marks question. It's a section B part. Total 13, 8, 4. And once again, we have to identify first how much part related to calculation and how much part theory. Normally, the 25 marks question is a balanced question between theory and calculations. Calculate in terms of percentage. Here, examiner particularly mentioned the in terms of percentage. The result of hedging strategy that are being considered for $48 million loan. If the central bank base rate increase to central bank base rate increase to 4.1 and falls to 3.3%. Your calculation should demonstrate the rates at which payments between counterparties should be made. 13 marks. 13 marks. Number 2, comment on the result of a calculation A. And this and now split it the part in two components. Discuss the advantage and disadvantage of Fitz for Harris interest rate swap. So that means this 8 marks having 2 parts, comments and something about swaps, plus minus. Explain the significance of the time until expiry and interest rate in the contracts of option valuation. That part of the question I will not discuss here. That's related to the Greeks. But I will discuss the A part and the B part here. Come on. Start the question. Fitz Harris Company is a large construction company. Its treasury department uses a variety of derivatives regularly to manage interest rate and commodity price risk. Fitz Harris Company's chief executive has recently been reviewing how treasury department uses derivatives, in particular options, to hedge risk. She has raised queries about aspects of option pricing which she does not understand. In particular, she wants to know the impact upon option price of the time until expiry of the option and interest rate. Okay, this is what about the background of the question. Now, transactions to be hedged. Okay, transactions to be hedged. Today is 1st August. So now date 1st August, that's very much important. Fitz Harris Company plans to borrow amount 48 million on 1st December. Okay, so what will be the first thing from the very first thing? What is the transaction date? First thing you have to work out, what is the transaction date? You have to identify now That's very much important. Now, 1st August. Transaction date. Transaction means amount, the date to borrow or lending. The 1st December. You have to identify, highlight. Okay. Then, to finance a major construction project for a period of up to 3 years. Period up to 3 years. Okay. The case about borrowings. Duration 3 years is equal to 36 months. 36 months. Do remember that forward contracts, or first I say futures contract, options contract, that's are marketable, tradable. That's are only short-term markets. Short-term market within 1 year. Within 1 year. It's not possible to enter with the option of the futures for the time of the 36 months. But these are the rolling type of contracts. Rolling type of contracts. But no matter is here. It's not a we don't want to deeply involve that particular point. Its Treasury Department has decided to hedge risk associated with this borrowing. There is some uncertainty about how interest rate will move over the rest of this year. The current central bank base rate is 3.7%. But prediction in the media that it could rise or fall by 0.4%. So current rate 3.7, rise or fall. So our analysis here, examiner ask an analysis, make a mindset with both up and down, because sometimes examiner asks one side, either up, either down. Here examiner asks both the things. So whatever I have highlighted at the scratch pad, I strongly suggest you have to identify the interest case, these things first. 3.7% predictions, it could rise or fall by 1st December. Fitz-Harris company can currently borrow funds at a floating rate, base rate plus 50 basis point. Okay. So here the rate is base rate plus 0.5 current. Why I am mentioning here? Because the relevant thing is only the scratch pad, rather than to involve with the question again and again and spend too much time. So list down these things at the scratch pad. Fitz-Harris company Treasury Department is considering hedging the interest rate risk using interest rate swaps. Interest rate swaps and collars on options. Collars on options on interest rate futures. Okay, so collars here available with the market. So can it be possible to make collar arrangement with the bank? It's possible in the real world, but not examine. Normally examine the collars with interest rate future options. Number 2, swap. Here the case of the interest rate swap. Come on. So 2 things here, swaps and the collars. Swaps, Fitz-Harris Bank has found a possible counter for the swap with the Fitz-Harris company. If the case about the swap, what I strongly suggest to you people, swap. First of all, identify which swap here. Here only the interest rate swap. What I say, only the interest rate swap. So there are two possibilities of the interest rate swap: with counterparty or with bank. Here the case about with counterparty. Mentioned bank has found a possible counterparty for swap. Here particular mention. So if there is the matter of the counterparty, it means the swap arrangement with more comparative advantage matter. More comparative advantage. So where we need to identify, very important, which one is stronger party and which one is weaker party. During the reading highlight, we are here Fitz-Harris. So Fitz-Harris either stronger or weaker. Okay, how to determine? The counterparty can borrow at annual floating rate 130 basis point. What do you say? Do reply me. This is counterparty. How can we can arrange currently borrowing rate plus 0.5, but the counterparty can take floating plus 130 basis point. So do reply me. Who is stronger with the credit rating? We or the counterparty? Yes, Fitz-Harris. Weaker is counterparty. So you have to determine first. That's a point. Okay, then move on. These are the important things you have to highlight. Or a fixed rate, here the fixed rate, 4.8%. But till now, we don't know at what percentage the Fitz-Harris can borrow the fixed rate. Fitz-Harris bank has quoted normal fixed rate 4.6 for the borrow. Okay. The bank would charge 5 basis points to each party individually to act as intermediary of the swap. Both parties would share equally the potential gain from the swap. Equally potential gain from the swap. It's mentioned. If nothing is mentioned with the question that how much each party will contribute, assume that 50-50%. Number two, callers. Here, not the question about futures, not the question about options, direct callers. But if we work out with the callers, the very important thing we need, the very important thing we required, that is estimated futures. That is estimated futures. That's we require the estimated futures. That's important. So options on 3 months December or futures, 100,000 contract size, 100,000 contract size. An option premium in percentage, call, put, and free marks. In case of caller, if we are working with callers, you have determined that the case of borrowing, mindset, buy put, set cap at percentage. So what is the percentage? One of the percentage 96.25 and one is 95.75. So 95.7 100 minus 95.75. Can you please reply me what is the amount? $3.75. Sell, call, set floor. Floor always lower side. 100 minus 96.25. Yes, what is the value? Okay. First one is 100 minus 95.75, 4.25. And 96.25, 3.75. Yes, like this. Apologies, that was a calculation mistake. That's free marks. During the question, you have already identified. That's a free marks. Now, the current 3 months dollar future price for the 3 months, the current 3 months futures 95.85. Okay. Futures and options contract assumed to be settled at the end of the month. Basis assumed to be diminished zero at contract maturity at a constant rate based on monthly time intervals. Also assume that no basis risk, no margin requirements. Okay, that is the point. Requirement. Calculate in terms of percentage the result of the hedging strategy being considered $48 million if the central bank base rate increase 4.1% and fall to 3.3. What is 4.1 or 3.3? It's very simple. Our analysis here, up and down, up by now. What is the now spot rate? 3.7. Now spot rate is 3.7 and rise by 0.4. Rise by 0.4, that's equals to 4.1. Are you getting the point? And second analysis, 3.7 minus 0.4. That is 3.3. That is the analysis. Hello, can you please reply me? All of you are with me? Yes, now come on. Even you people are watching the video. If you have any problem, you can. Now, part A. Okay, come on. Part A. What to do with respect to this part A? Start. That is about analysis. Hedging strategy. About the borrowings of $48 million by at what date? 1st December for 3 years. Okay, do let me know quickly the analysis for this. Number one, interest rate up and interest rate down. Interest rate up and down. Interest rate up and down. Okay. In case of interest rate up, that's equals to 4.1%. It's given 4.1%. And in that case, 3.3%. Okay, 3.3%. This is what about the analysis we need to make. Now come on. There are two strategies. Number one, swap, and number two, callers. And we have to find out. A very important thing about the swap, we have to know that swap is a long-term forward contract. Swap is a long-term forward contract. Whatever the swap arrangement will be, whatever the swap arrangement will be, the final answer remains same because it's like a long-term forward contract. It's like a forward contract. So whatever we do with the swap, interest rate swap, here, it's for the arrangement, not the outcomes. Okay, let's start with the working. First of all, we have to determine the more comparative advantage. The more comparative advantage, number one. Ratings, fixed rate, floating rate, okay, come on. Number one, the company name Fitz Harris, FH. Don't use the shortcuts here, huh? And here the counterparty. We have already determined that Fitz Harris is stronger. If examiner mention the credit ratings, for example, AAA, AA, triple B, you have to mention. Otherwise, do the working like this. What is the fixed rate here? What is the fixed rate here? Quickly. Fitz Harris 4.6%. 4.6. And the another company 4.8%. What about the floating? Base rate plus 0.5. And base rate plus 0.5. 1.3. So number one, the comparative advantage. The comparative advantage is 0.2 and 0.8. So we must say more comparative advantage with floating rate and more comparative advantage. This is important. More means 0.8 minus 0.2 and that's equals to 0.6. The number one. And this is the sharing with advantage will share 50-50. Okay, now the swap arrangement. Now the swap arrangement. Yes, come on. One by one. The very first thing, the swap arrangement, Fitz Harris, counterparty. Start the arrangement. Swap arrangement. The first thing is that actual borrowings. Actual borrowings. Always start the actual borrowings. Start the actual borrowings based on floating rate. Sorry, based on more comparative advantage. Fitz Harris will actually borrow the amount with the floating rate. And the floating rate is basis rate plus 0.5%. So I must say minus basis rate plus 0.5 because the payment here. Or you can work out payment in the positive and receipt will be negative, no matter it is in any way around. For example, if I mention basis plus 0.5 is a payment, no worries about that. If actual borrowings is basis plus 0.5, the second step, the counterparty will collect against the stronger party. So what will be the against? The against is this one, 4.8. This is the rule, huh? And now swap. Swap means exchange. No need to mention, just for the understanding. Exchange. Exchange. Exchange here, FH receive. And FH means Fitz Harris pay. The stronger party will receive whatever they have paid through the actual borrowing. That is the point. So payment received cancel with the minus. And they have to pay. But the point is that what the Fitz Harris will pay. Here we need to working. Fitz Harris to pay borrowing rate, sorry, the fixed rate not exactly the weaker party paid. No, rather than the fixed rate, the fixed rate 4.6, the stronger party rate, and that is 4.6. And adjust the comparative advantage sharing. What is the comparative advantage sharing? That was 0.6. 0.6 sharing is equal to 0.5 into 0.6, but that should be the minus. So is equal to sum 4.3. So that is the point, 4.3. They have to pay 4.3 and they will receive 4.3. And the bank charges. Both the parties will, what is the bank charges here? 5 basis point, 0.05. The payment in positive. So effective interest rate with swap. What will be the rate? What will be the rate? Do reply me. Okay, sorry, apologies for this inconvenience. Okay, what will the effective interest rate be? 0.5, 0.5 plus and minus cancel, and is equal to 4.35. Actually, we have no concern about the counterparty. We have no concern about here the counterparty. No concern point about the counterparty. No concern point about the counterparty. The only matter we have to consider is this. So effective interest rate is 4.35%. Effective interest rate with swap remain 4.35% irrespective the interest rate will move up or down. It's long term forward contract, and even you can just test by testing, just for the testing, put the figure here. For example, if interest rate become 4.1%, 4.1%, incorporate this, do it. If this is the point, 4.1%, whatever the answer, Both are cancelled. Both are cancelled. 4.1 plus 0.5, whatever the answer, cancel with other point. And then the final answer 4.3 plus 0.05. If the interest rate 3.3 plus 0.5, whatever the answer, cancel here. And then the final answer remains same. This is the long-term forward contract. No need to put up the things. Only show the swap arrangement. And what you will say, in any of the case, the answer will 4.3%, 4.35%. Control C, Control V. Candidates, can you please reply me? Is that clear to all of you? Very simple question. Basic swap matter. Now, the another point is callers. Now, the another point is callers. But for the sake of callers, some working be required here. And what working be required here? Yes. For the sake of the callers, I know that the question is not about futures. The question is not about options, future options. The question is about callers. The question here is about callers. If the question here about callers, the point is that, very important point. The first thing is that the case is borrowing. The number two, there will be one caller with the combination of cap and floor. But there are two analyses here. Interest rate up and down. If this is the question with the exam, first do this working very clearly. Number one, you have to mention that this is the December contract. Free marks. Take out the free marks. Number one, December contracts. Number two, no need to involve any complications. Number two, buy put option. The position as holder, and we will set cap. We will sell call as writer, set floor, and mention three things. Number one, easy, buy commodity. Buy interest rate and premium. What the commodity here? You said 96.25. You said 95.75. Okay. Interest rate is equal to 100 minus this. Is equal to 100 minus this. sorry, 95.75, 96.25. And take out the position of the premium. Simple premium. The put 0.21, it's we have to pay 0.211, that's have to pay, and 0.198, that's payment. इसको बंद कर हैं. Receive. Have to pay, have to receive. So here the amount is, what is the net amount? Is equal to 211 minus 0.98. That is the net payment. That is free marks. These are free marks till now. And mention the number of contracts. Yes. Mention the number of contracts. Do the easy one with the question first. Number of contracts. Yes. Mention the number of contracts. How much number of contracts here? Yes. Determine the number of contracts. The number of contracts is calculated. Amount of borrowing or lending divided by contract amount, contract value, multiply by duration divided by contract duration. And contract duration here by default 3 months. No need to mention in detail about all the things. Can any one of you please reply me about the number of contracts? Is equal to 48 million divided by 1 million, 1 multiply by the duration 36 divided by 3. 576 contracts. 576 contracts. 576 contracts. Till now, you have done almost 40 to 50% part of the callers. That is the free marks. It's not the 80 contracts, it's 576 contracts. Sir, how calculate the 576? 3 years. 3 years means 36 months. 3 years here, 36 months. 48 divided by 1 multiplied by 36 divided by 3. Is that clear, all of you? The very important thing I'm sharing a very important thing. The exam is AFM September, December 20. Just a moment. Yes. Is my screen clear to you? That is about the marking scheme. Yes. If we work out with the callers, the number of contracts having 1 marks. The callers. The basis calculation remains, we will work out. But buy, put, sell, call having 1 mark. The premium calculations having 1 mark. So there are how much marks here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Out of 8, 1 mark free. Buy, put, sell, call, free mark. Premium calculation, free marks. Out of 8, 3 marks is totally free. Callers, total 8 marks, total 3 marks is totally free. What I personally think, that's our, do you agree with me? Whatever we have done till now, it's a free marks. Can you please reply me? No complications. Number 1. Number 2, for 3 marks, you have already almost 5 minutes. But what I think, if you have a good command, you just attempt this part in 2 to 3 minutes. Buy, put, sell, call. This is premium, number of contracts with 2 to 3 minutes, and you can save the time here. So can you please reply me? 2 things. Number 1, do you agree with that point? You can save the time with this type of working. Number 1. Number 2, it's a easy marks. Even you people are watching the video, do reply me accordingly. Yes, now next point is about, we have done with the callers. Arrangement of the callers. This is what about the arrangement of the callers. This is what about arrangement of callers. Now, the point is that evaluation of the callers. Sir, we have done swap arrangement, no evaluation. We don't want to make any evaluation of swap because any of the evaluation, the swap answer remains same. 4.35, 4.35. But the caller case, the evaluation is required because with 2 cases means interest rate will increase or decrease. Interest rate will increase or decrease. With 2 cases, interest rate will increase or decrease. 2 different situations may arises. 2 different rates may arises. That's a key point. So candidates, I suggest that we have to take a break for this time. So a short break for that moment. After that, I will continue for that part of the question. Okay, now it's time for the evaluation of the callers. Evaluation of the callers. Before entering the details about the evaluation of the callers, the very first thing is that make sure that you have done one working. Sir, what working? The working about estimated futures. The working about estimated futures. We all know that now is 1st August. Now is 1st August. And the interest rate cases here. Interest rate cases here. 2 cases. Two particular cases here. Number one, interest rate up and interest rate down. If the case is about interest rate up, that is 4.1%, down 3.3%. These are the two requirements. Exactly, these are the two requirements. Yes or no? So basically, these are estimated spot. These are estimated spots. These are estimated spots. Now the point is that what is now a spot? Now a spot is 3.7. It's here the question about here 3.7, this one. And now what is the rate of futures? Here examiner mentioned the current future rates, the current future prices. I've already told you that with respect to option, working with percentages, not the commodity. So 100 minus 95.85. 4.15. And we need to determine estimated futures. We need to determine, or we need to calculate estimated futures. Number one, basis risk is equal to 3.7 minus 4.15. 0.15. And our exit date means transaction date. What is our transaction date? 1st December. So we have taken December contract now. So, and what date? 1st August. So count August till 31st December. August, September, October, November, December. August, September, October, November, December. 5 months is equal to minus 0.45 divided by 5 multiplied by 1. 0.09. Basis risk remaining. Now we have to reverse working. 4.1 minus this value 4.19 is equal to 3.3 minus this value 3.39. So actually we required this estimated futures, and we have determined if interest rate up, the estimated futures become 4.19. If interest rate down, that is 3.39. That is 3.39. One important thing you have to notice here, at 1st August, you have entered with December contract, and that December contract will expire at 31st December. That's important thing. Another important point, with the marketable contract, we have adjusted the number of contracts, that is 576. We cannot adjust the duration of December contracts because it's market. We cannot adjust. We adjust our contract. So do remember that our date of transaction is 1st December and the contract will expire by 31st December. That's the key point. Okay. These are the estimated futures. Now, the very, very important discussion now we are going to start. Number evaluation. Evaluation based on two things. Case one, interest rate up. If the interest rate up and that's become 4.1%. So first thing is that we have to compare exercise price. Number one, the caller's evaluation, interest rate up. So with the case of callers, I'm sorry, with the case of callers, if we are considering the interest rate up, the very first thing we have to consider the important point. Interest rate up means we have to pick put option. Means is right now the relevant is this buy put option. The interest rate 4.25%. Why this happens? The reason is that if interest rate up, so that means we as holder now now thinking here, now considering here, either I will exercise or not. And a simple wording, whenever you make caller, and if the situation is adverse, do reply me. The situation is, in this case, unfavorable or not. We as a borrower, interest rate will up. Situation is unfavorable or not. Considering the unfavorable situation, yes or no? Can you please reply me? As a borrower, interest rate, if we are evaluating, if interest rate increase, that means situation unfavorable. So unfavorable situation means either we will exercise, or get the gain or lapse. We will not consider this one as a writer. We will ignore as a writer. That's a key point you have to consider. So don't confuse with that particular scenario. I'm repeating a very important point carefully. If the case of borrowing, you actually buy put higher rate and sell call lower rate. So what I'm saying here, I'm saying if the situation is that interest rate is moving, this is number one case. So we will ignore this exercise price. We will consider this exercise price higher one and consider if this cross that the gain. If this is between here, that is lapse. But on the other hand, listen carefully. The first green marker reflecting the situation become unfavorable. And we ignore lower one. We have to ignore this one. But what if the situation is this? If the situation is favorable, if the situation has become favorable, so we will ignore our position as either we will exercise or not. We will consider the counterparty will exercise or not. If counterparty exercise at that point, that's the case of our loss. If not exercise, that's a case of lapse. So in option, no chance of loss. But in callers, there's a chance of gain. Oh, there's a chance of loss. So number one, if we are considered here, number one, interest rate up, that's a situation unfavorable. So we will ignore this as a right, we will ignore the writer to whom we sell the option. Okay, now consider exercise price. What exercise price? The exercise price 4.25. Number two, estimated futures. So in the case of interest rate increase, what is the interest rate estimated futures? 4.19. 4.19. Now we as borrower need to think as a borrower, with the borrowing cost, is this beneficial to exercise and pay? Here the matter of pay 4.25 or with the market pay 4.19. So is this exercisable value, payable value, it's beneficial or lapse? Yes, we will mention that this is lapse because by payment exercise is higher. This is higher. And market is lower. So if exercise is higher, it's loss for us. Oh, it's not beneficial for us. Lapse. Here, lapse. So now what we will do here, what we will consider, the net outcome. The net outcome is this. Number one, estimated spot plus spread. And don't ignore spread. There is a complaint from examiner. Students sometimes put the mistakes with the spread matters. Spread, number one. Estimated spot plus spread. Spread. Yes, what is the estimated spot? The estimated spot is 4.1. It's simple, it's 4.1 is equal to 4.1 plus the spread 0.5, that's 4.6. The premium net $0.013. 0.013. Next, any caller gain? No. So should no gain. So what is the effective interest rate? Is equal to sum. Is equal to 4.6 plus 0.13. That is 4.613. That is 4.613. 4.613. Callers 4.613. $4.613. Sorry. Okay, come on. That is the first thing. Now the next point. The next point is that if case 2, interest rate down, and that's become 3.3. The very first thing we have to consider that particular point as a writer. Sorry, we have to consider either counterparty will exercise or not. Counterparty will exercise or not. So number one, the exercise price. The exercise price. Here the exercise price that we need to consider, that is 3.75. Number one. 3.75. And the estimated futures. Estimated futures. These are the estimated futures, 3.39. Now we have to consider here. We have to consider here the CP counterparty lender and have to consider receive. Do let me know. If counterparty as a lender will go to the market, he or she will earn 3.39, receive. Otherwise, with exercise 3.75. So either counterparty will exercise yes or no as a lender. If the counterparty will exercise, that's loss on callers. $0.36. Net outcome is equal to 3.3 plus 0.15. Premium 0.013, 0.36. That's called a loss. $3.823. 3.823. Sorry, is equal to 3.3 plus 0.5. Okay, 4.713. 4.713. Sorry. 4.713. So this is what about the complete case. 4.713. Yes, that is what the final answer. $4.713. That's the answer. And that is all about the calculation perspective here. That is all about calculation perspective. That is all done. Candidates, I hope that it's very much clear to you how to work out with respect to the collars and the swap. It's a good question with respect to the collars and the swap. Now, the point is that what is the requirement? What is the requirement here? What is the requirement here? We have done with the 13 marks. But still, we have to work out with the comment and the drawbacks and plus pointer with respect to the swaps. Sometimes examiner, majority times examiner includes comments with section A, but here isolated with here. Very important point. With this, that's what you people will write with respect to the spreadsheet. Number one, if we are work out with the comment, listen carefully. The marking scheme says that the comment on the calculation having 1 mark. Rest of the part related to swap. But what I personally think, in the examination context, sometimes or majority of times, comments having more marks, 2 to 3 marks, sometimes 4. So if we do that here with the matter comments, so always start comments with calculation. Always calculation, the facts. What are the facts here? If we identify the facts matter here, very simple learnings, very simple. This is what about the complete analysis. In case of interest rate up, In case of interest rate up, that will be the beneficial point swap. In case of interest rate down, same case, the swap is beneficial. Means in both scenario, swap will be the more beneficial method. Very simple comment. The swap gives a better result if base rate 0.5 and the option base if falls by 0.4. Mean in both cases, swap will be the beneficial. The calculation. Oh, I'm sorry. Something missing with my side. Sorry. This is what 4.173. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yes. What the point here? The point is, in the case of interest rate up, swap, three things important. Number one, in the case of interest rate up, swap will be beneficial. In the case of interest rate down, collar will be beneficial. But the third point is that if we opt with swap, our position will become indifferent. Indifferent means we are more predictable. We can predict the situation in advance. Number one, the swap gives a better result if base rate rise by 0.4. But the option or collars, collar options if the base rate fall. The calculation do not give clear indication which strategy should be chosen. We don't know either interest rate will increase or decrease. We cannot say anything with surety, maybe increase or decrease. So that's why the situation is not clear. The decision may be determined whether the company viewpoint rise or fall. The final decision is based on what is actually the perception of the company's management as being more likely or how it views the advantage, disadvantage of the strategy. Here the marks is very least about the comment. That's why a limited discussion here. But always start comment with facts. Then you incorporate the things according to the marks, considering the forward, futures, all the things. Number two, the important point, advantage of swap over collars. Number one, the question is not advantage of swap only. The question is advantage of swap over collars. That's important. So the point is that swap OTC over collars. Advantage of swap over collars means over the counter means versus marketable standard contract. 3 to 4 marks. Total you have 8 marks. 1 or 2 marks have done with comment. Remaining 6 to 7 marks. Out of 6 to 7 marks, number one, you have to work out with the advantage. For advantage, 3 to 4 marks, you have to mention 2 to 3 well explained points. What are the explained points? For example, swap is over the counter. That is flexible. We can use longer time. We can work with comparative advantage. And same point, if we enter with the swap, we are very much certain. Certain means in any case, we have to pay the borrowing cost 4.35%. So that is certainty. So these 3 to 4 points we can put for the advantage. But the important point, if these are advantage, we have to incorporate some connections with the case like this. Fitch Harris swapping the commitment, Fitch Harris forecast finance cost. You have to develop these kind of wordings that's connect with the case. Moreover, what a drawback of swap over the callers? Number one, these are over the counter contracts. That means the counterparty risk. If the counterparty defaults, that what will happen? Always over the counter having these risks. If swaps are from the swap, we are in a position to make a predictable manner, but we will not be able to get advantage of favorable situation. And it's not the tradable contracts. So first of all, plan these points and then put the things. You can make heading of these things accordingly. So are you getting the point, students? How you will work out accordingly? Can you please reply me? Moreover, finally, one thing. One minute. One thing I wanted to highlight here, what the students normally do, an examiner have a complaint about these things. Yes, this is what the examiner report, huh? Fitch Harris, 13 marks. We have to highlight the things, the highlight points. Some important things. Now come on. A limited point. One by one. Yes. First thing, highlight point. A minority of candidates able to efficiently perform all necessary calculations and quickly earn high marks. Too many students struggled, spent too much time doing incorrect and often unnecessary calculations for which little credit could be awarded. Examiner is saying that you can save the time here and you can work out with this point that whenever you are reading the question, highlight the important point like this. That's important. Don't spend too much time. Okay. Moreover, candidates were generally less successful with the callers. Significant minority of candidates did calculation for option hedge instead, indeed a future hedge, of which they could only receive limited credit. Means we have done the callers with 3 steps. Number 1, easy marks. Number 2, estimated futures. Number 3, callers gain or loss and net interest. So here examiner says if you put only the future hedge matters, you will get limited marks. A key problem in this question was the number of contracts should be used. Yes, these are in this question very unusual. As can be seen in the model answer, calculation of the number of contracts has been borrowed for the 3 years. In reality, rolling series of hedge would be used to such longer period. And as credit was given for justifiable answers. Don't worry if you attempt something mistake, no worries about that. Candidates should note that future questions number of contracts will continue to be calculated based on periods on which funds will be borrowed or indeed invested. Means same like us, the formula, amount of borrowing divided by contract size multiplied by duration of borrowing divided by contract terms, that's 3 months. Calculation of basis remaining continues a problem for many candidates. Simple rule, basis risk. Now basis risk, now basis risk, now date, compare with the now, if you identify that how much the total basis is now. So always remember, basis risk total calculation based on which contract you are taking. December, then put, if December contract not considered a transaction, considered December contract will end by 31st December. Then remaining basis risk, the numerator, how much remaining basis risk, the numerator, go to the transaction date and calculate the remaining time till 31st December. Transaction date 1st December, remaining time 31st December, 1 month. It is recommended that candidates should do their best to master this as fundamental when dealing with future options and hedges, collar hedges. The decision whether to exercise or lapse the option continues cause problems. Candidates adopt a structure and logical approach as demonstrated in model answer, and like the answer we done, seems to fewer mistake even when working with the speed, and recommended that all candidates try to like this. Should note that answer was only percentage, it was necessary to percentage, as can be model answer. This make required much simpler and enable candidates to demonstrate their knowledge in collars. Similar approach could use for future and options, not in this case, in future, in other cases. So percentage is acceptable. Moreover, about the calculation, what here said that this is important. Candidates should avoid repetition unless adding value. For instance, stating swap have default risk and caller do not, will not earn one, will only earn 1 mark. What does that mean? If you mention the disadvantage of swap is that swap have a default risk, and the second point you mentioned that caller do not have default risk, examiner saying that you will not earn 2 marks. This is only 1 point. So don't be so clever. Be honest whenever you're writing the answer. Are you getting the point? Okay, candidate, that is what all about the question with the highlights of the examination point as well. I hope that you will be comfortable about this part of the question. And thank you very much about this part of session. Jazakallah khair. So now what's next? I strongly suggest to all of you, open up the question of September, December 2021 and attempt that question with your own. Attempt that question, Brandon, that interest rate. With that question, question number 1, we have already done the question number 1. Zikai. Now I am giving you to attempt the section B, Brandon question. You have to attempt that question. First, you have to attempt with your sincerity. A part theory, B part calculation and comment, C part theory. Then compare your answer with exam simulation. You have to attempt with the exam simulation. Attempt. And then compare your answer with the model answer and also read this examining report from where you identify what the mistake the students have done and what was the examiner expectation and then move on accordingly. Believe me, if you have done this part of the scenario, you have done with me the swap and collars plus FRA options and futures. With this case, a comprehensive revision will covered with the interest matters, including theoretical aspect. So candidates, can you please reply me? Are you getting the point what I'm saying? Tomorrow is Sunday. You have enough time. Go take a good sleep, then wake up early and then start the working accordingly. This is what about the right direction to you. That is the point. So inshallah, we will meet tomorrow. And I have a plan to discuss tomorrow about some more thing about related to swaps. That's currency swaps, number one. Number two, one question about the bond valuation and the question accordingly, and then we will move accordingly. So two of the question we will discuss on tomorrow, and the question of the bond valuation I will discuss include some matter of the acquisition, mergers, and like these things. Inshallah, we will do that on tomorrow. Okay, thank you very much. Take care a lot. Assalamu alaikum.